was kept hidden in her room for 25 years just because she fell in love. Blanche Monnier's well-known French family was shocked to learn she had fallen for a commoner. Thus, they kept her imprisoned in a small dark chamber for more than 20 years. A mysterious letter dated May 1901 claimed that a wealthy Monnier family in Poitiers, France, was concealing a troubling secret from the Attorney General of Paris. The letter claimed that a spinster had spent 25 years as a prisoner within the Monnier home and that she was now living in her own filth. Blanche Monnier was that prisoner. The letter was handwritten by an unidentified writer who did not sign it.
Monsieur Attorney General, I have the honor to inform you of an exceptionally serious occurrence. I speak of a spinster who is locked up in Madame Monnier's house, half-starved, and living on a putrid litter for the past 25 years. In a word, in her own filth.
The Monnier family had a brilliant reputation up until that point. Nevertheless, the Attorney General was so troubled by the contents of the anonymous letter that he made a quick decision to look into the matter. France would be shocked by what the authorities discovered inside the Monnier family's home. For 25 years, Blanche Monnier, a member of the Monnier family, who was believed to be abroad, had been kept a secret and locked in the family attic. The once bubbly socialite was now covered in feces, extremely underweight, and surrounded by vermin and rotting food. To make matters worse, her mother had put her in jail just for falling in love with a man that her family did not approve of. The police officers must have had some doubts when they arrived at the Monnier residence. The aristocratic family was revered after all. Madame Louise Monnier was honored for her humanitarian efforts by the upper class of Paris. Louise Monnier was married to a man who used to head a local arts faculty. They had 2 children, a son named Marcel, who had graduated from law school and worked as an administrative official with the Puget-Théniers commune, and a daughter named Blanche, who was born in 1849. The young socialite was seen as physically attractive and was frequently described as very gentle and good-natured. It is therefore not surprising that as she grew older, she attracted a lot of suitors. Considering her family's esteemed position in society, she was also frequently in the spotlight. In 1876, Blanche Monnier disappeared suddenly one day. People were informed by Louise Monnier that her daughter was either traveling or had gone away. Many of the Monnier family's contacts ceased asking the Monnier family questions about the young socialite as time went on, assuming that she had moved abroad permanently. It was evident that the Monnier family, particularly Louise, did not want the authorities there when they showed up at the Monnier residence in 1901. The detectives had to break into the home. Initially, everything seemed to be all right. However, police discovered a foul smell from upstairs after investigating more. One door in particular had the strongest smell and was padlocked shut. The officers entered the room without anticipating what they would find inside. The room's lone window was closed and concealed by heavy drapes, leaving it completely dark. Authorities discovered that the decaying food leftovers that were all over the floor contributed to the horrible stench as the light began to flood in. However, the smell was also emanating from the run-down bed in the space on which a thin woman was resting. It was Blanche Monnier. Blanche had not seen the sun in more than 20 years when the police officers stormed into the chamber that day and opened the shuttered window. Since she disappeared as a young bright socialite in 1876, her family had kept her imprisoned in the gloomy room. The woman, who was now middle-aged, was severely emaciated and weighed just 55 pounds. She was forced to lie in her feces, surrounded by insects and bad food, because she was so weak that she could not even stand up to relieve herself. One officer who was at the crime scene later recalled the horrific sight.
The unfortunate woman was lying nude on a rotten straw mattress. All around her was a sort of crust made from excrement, fragments of meat, vegetables, fish, and rotten bread. We also saw oyster shells and bugs running across Mademoiselle Monnier's bed.
It was astonishing the woman was still alive, given the horrific neglect she had endured. The investigators were unable to remain in the room for more than a few minutes due to the overpowering stench of rot and dirt. They found it almost amazing that she had managed to survive for roughly 25 years in that chamber. While some officers arrested Blanche Monnier's mother and brother, others took her to the hospital. Blanche was extremely underweight, but the hospital staff noted that she was remarkably coherent and even commented,
"It is so lovely to breathe fresh air again."
Her heartbreaking, complete story came to light gradually. Madame Louise Monnier said that her daughter had found a suitor years before her incarceration. The family was disappointed to learn that he was an elderly, penniless lawyer rather than a youthful, affluent aristocrat. Blanche Monnier resisted leaving the man of her dreams, despite her mother's insistence that she select a more acceptable suitor. Madame Monnier retaliated by imprisoning her daughter in a closed room until she submitted to her wishes. Years passed, but Blanche Monnier remained unflinching. She was kept confined to her cell with nothing to do but watch rodents. Even after her lover passed away in 1885, after failing to assist his sibling, Blanche's brother was later charged with working with his mother. Who wrote the letter that led to Blanche's rescue was never revealed. According to one version, a household servant revealed the truth to her boyfriend, who was so appalled that he felt obliged to notify the Attorney General. However, the horrifying tale quickly gained widespread attention, and the public's indignation was so intense that a vengeful crowd assembled outside the Monnier residence. Due to the strain of the public uproar, Madame Monnier developed severe cardiac issues. 15 days after her daughter's release, she would pass away. Sadly, Marcel, Blanche's brother, was the only member of the Monnier family still living to face justice for the crimes. Marcel maintained throughout his trial that Blanche made the decision to stay in her room and never wanted to leave. He also mentioned his sister's violent behavior at one time. Marcel Monnier's involvement in his mother's crimes resulted in a 15-month prison sentence. But in the end, his assertion that his sister was free to leave any time she pleased led to his final acquittal. Undoubtedly, one of the contributing factors at the time was the absence of a duty to rescue legislation in the area. Furthermore, Blanche was in no position to present her case in court. Blanche Monnier's life will never be the same after her rescue. Even though she gradually made progress, the psychological harm was too great for her to ever fully recover and rejoin society. She spent the remainder of her life at a Bois sanitarium before passing away in 1913 at the age of 64. Thank you for watching, and tell me how you feel in the comments.